And welcome back. So we've kind of looked at compressor and where it sits in the chain or where it doesn't sit in the chain. And on that note, I guess this is another big tip for me, is don't use compressors. I know that's almost contradictory, but I'm not saying never use compressors, but you need to try and understand when you actually need one and when you don't. If, for example, you're just trying to glue some sounds together and we're talking, 1 or 2 dB of gain reduction, then, that's something that is fine. It's not a problem. But I see all too often people using compressors just to boost everything or just to gain reduce something, and there's maybe one spike in a channel. That's not really the time to use a compressor. There's no need to use a compressor because they have attack times, they're responsive and reactive to signals going in and out, so it's not always the best solution to just throw a compressor on something because there happens to be a big spike, or if there happens to be just a sudden drop in volume. We live in the world with digital audio workstations where everything's digital and we can manipulate it to any way that we want. And actually the best way to do that usually is manually. So for example, in this vocal, as I was working on it, I noticed that the second rotation, if you look at the screen here, the second rotation here of verse 2, I felt like the R in that very first beat there is just a bit too loud. So if I just play it from the first rotation over here. Give me something. Oh, I've still got my compressors on for last time. Let's get rid of those. Give me something. Give me something to believe in. Am running. So I kind of feel like the I's are a little bit too loud. Now I could run a compressor through that, but what's that really going to do? How am I really going to achieve that with a compressor? Sure, I could bring my threshold down and hit play. I am running. And that's going to catch it. See there, you've got a couple of dB reduction there instantly. I am running. But you can see it's also catching it on the word running. I am running. So all you're really doing is you're pushing the dynamic range out of everything there. And to me, I just don't see the point in doing that when you could just double click, open up this clip. I am. And run it from inside. So we can hit the edit button here, go clip, volume, throw in a couple of marker points. I am. And to me, that's the way to do it. And then maybe I am running. Give me something to believe in. I am run. So I think I've gone a bit too far there, but you get the idea. It's about automating the volume manually sometimes, especially with something like a vocal. Even more importantly, if you're using electronic instruments, if you feel like your snare drum is too loud or your kick drum is too loud, rather than trying to tame it with compressors, first of all you need to ask yourself, where is it in the mix? If it's 5 dB above everything else, just bring the gain down. It's really that simple. Second of all, you need to ask yourself, is it the right sound? If it's cutting through everything else and just annoying you, then you can compress it all you want. But if it's an annoying sound, a compressor's not going to fix that. Which brings me back to the very first video I did in this series, where I talk about the importance of picking the right sound in the first place. If you remember, with the kick drums and the lead sounds, there's a lot to be said for just making sure that the sounds work with each other during the production anyway. And if you're then having to fiddle with compressors, again, it's not so bad on something like a vocal, which will naturally have a big dynamic range, but you don't really want to squash that out, because then it becomes unnatural. And even more so if you're looking at something electronic like a snare drum or a clap or a, you know, a 909 sample or something like that, then you're pointlessly using compressors. And I see it all too often where people are using compressors on everything, and it's just completely and utterly unnecessary. So that is my biggest tip when it comes to compression, is try not to use them, just automate the game.
Thanks everybody for watching, commenting and indeed liking. We really do appreciate all the support we get here on our Sonic Academy YouTube channel. So if you found this video super useful, please, we'd love you to hit the subscribe button. We update the YouTube channel every week with new content, and if you want to watch some more relevant content, just click on the videos beside me.